Well, I have been so blessed to be at the Great Canadian Awakening. We have had guest after guest that has been absolutely phenomenal. And to meet again with my friend, Derek Sloan, we just thank you so much. And you have got your footprint all over this country. And first of all, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your courage and for standing up, for saying things while you were in Parliament that most people wouldn't say. I just thank you for giving it to Dr. Teresa Tam in the most sincerest part of my heart, that you really, like you said, what everyone in the country was thinking. Now, you didn't get treated that well by media, and eventually some things have happened and you've moved into a new course, but you are still talking about politics. You still believe in it, right? I just heard you speak. I heard your impressive speech. You spoke about life and you spoke about politics. So tell me, where's your heart at now for this nation? Because it's a bit of a mess, Derek, and we wish that you were there, to help us.
Well, I'm still holding on, and I believe with all my heart that there will be a day that Canada, arises from the ashes and really becomes all that it could be. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I definitely don't think it's time to, leave the country or like close down shop or like anything like that. I think it's time to stay here and fight. And I believe that Canadians need to get involved in politics. They need to become informed, and they need to support people who are worthy of support. And my belief is that the mainstream political parties in this country have led us astray. They've led us to the point that we're at. They're not going to be the vehicles that take us out of here. So we need new vehicles. We need new people. And there are different parties and people are rising across the country.
Yes.
And Canadians need to get behind them and support them.
You talked about not putting new wine into old wineskins, and I thought that was brilliant. Of course, that's a quote from the Bible, but it's very accurate. Like, we need new politicians. We need people that are willing and daring enough to say what people need to hear. You talked a little bit about that. We've got the old school still happening. Like, this is entrenched in, backroom meetings. You mentioned that. These are the politicians now running our country.
Well, no matter what party you're a part of, there's sort of compromise, backroom deals. There's sort of going along to get along. There's this idea that you can only put out things that people kind of want. You try and put your spin on it, but if your view is that someone is against something, even if it may be the truth, even if it may be the exact thing that Canada needs, the parties won't touch it. They will only do things that they think will help them win. And that's not, you can't lead that way. You have to lead from the top. Sometimes that might mean doing the popular thing. Sometimes it might mean doing the thing that's not popular, but you have to do it anyways. And I believe that down the line, it may be a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years. Eventually Canadians will say, you know what, that guy was actually right. But if you're just going day to day, opinion poll to opinion poll, you're not leading the country. You're just shuttling it to hell, basically. And that's what we're seeing today.
Yes. And you are willing to bring up that very precarious, subject of the unborn and life in our country. And you brought up how we don't even have a law, not one law to protect the unborn.
That's true. So I read a chapter from my book that deals with the importance of life issues.
Yes.
And really, and what I was telling people is you can't support a political party or person that doesn't value the life of a human being. Without that baseline value, you can't, like for example, why would you want a balanced budget if you don't care about the people that would benefit from that, right? And of course, everybody cares about some people, right? They care about their friends. They care about able-bodied people. Do they care about old people? Do they care about the unborn? Do they care about people with disabilities? In our view, in a Christian view, a life carries inherent dignity because it's made in God's image. And so regardless of who you are, we have to protect life. And we're seeing callous disregard for human life, right? So obviously abortion has been something that's been a mainstay in Canada for many years, and euthanasia now is becoming very popular. But look at what happened during COVID, right? On one hand, they were trying to protect certain people so much that they in fact created a lot of problems. But our elderly were dying in nursing homes by themselves, alone, right? So like, if you don't have a basic value of life, even when you try to protect people, you end up hurting them. And they were trying to protect us during COVID, but they ended up hurting all of us. And that's because their understanding of life, their understanding of who we are as humans is flawed. And of course, the corruption in government and all the backdoor deals didn't help either. But we saw all of the problems that I'm talking about on display during COVID-19,
Yeah.
and it resulted in drastic damage to our country.
I've been really surprised that no one that's an actual elected parliamentarian is really speaking the language of the people, not the people that I believe are rising up right now. Like, I don't see it. I appreciated Leslyn Lewis meeting with Christine Anderson, but of course we saw three MPs had to apologize for meeting with someone from a different country that really got slammed in our country very disrespectfully and untruthfully. And we saw Pierre Poilievre basically come out attacking Christine Anderson. I personally was shocked by that. I think it revealed something about Pierre Poilievre that Canadians were not aware of.
Well, there's a lot of cowardice in Canadian politics. There's a lot of naivety in Canadian politics. Like Canada seems to have adopted a false pride. Canada is a great country, and we have a great potential ahead of us. But people seem to have adopted this false pride over our mediocre nature, and they don't really understand what's going on in other parts of the country. And so we have a very narrow sort of rhetoric that's happening at the very highest levels. Things on what is and what isn't racist and things like this. And so instead of actually, now in the United States, there's obviously people on both sides of the aisle that say outrageous things, but there is a conversation going on. And you would never see what happened with that Christine Anderson happen in the United States. Now, you might see a left-wing TV show host make some fun of it, but you would never see the House leader of the Republicans or something unilaterally denounce one of their members meeting with another politician from another country. So it just goes to show that there's Canadians are just in many ways, and when I say Canadians, I mean the kind that just sort of take CBC and these other things at face value.
Not our viewers.
Yeah, not the people watching today. They just take for granted this sort of unrealistic view of the world, right? Kind of like, we should have a higher immigration level because everyone is great if you treat them with respect. Like, with enough hugs and positivity, we can solve all the world's problems. That seems to be Trudeau's approach. And the world is not that simple. And Canada never used to be that way. We used to be cautiously optimistic, but we used to be, aware of things in the world. And that is gone. When you think of, peacekeeping in the past, we were never the people that were, pounding our own chest and trying to get deals for ourselves in other countries when there was, turmoil. But we were aware that those things happened, and we didn't do things with this naivety that's sort of everywhere now. Like people are asked about Trump, and something like 85% of Canadians think that he should, go to jail for whatever did or didn't happen with Stormy Daniels.
Right.
And it's like, really? It's just like, it doesn't matter what you say about Trump, 85, should he be hung? Should he be drawn and quartered? Should he be, should his name be expunged from the books forever?
And is that mainstream media's fault? I mean, all they do is in the U.S. as well, is slam him. Like, the truth does not come out very easily.
So it is media's fault for sure, but it's also Canadians' fault, right? I mean, if you're getting fed a load of horse wash or whatever you want to call it, we can use other language. Hogwash. There we go. Let's do that, right? At the end of the day, it's up to you to kind of identify that. You may not know, what the truth is, but you should be able to, smell some smoke when they're doing this kind of thing. So I think the blame is on Canadians. But really, at the end of the day, our leaders have led us astray. And I believe that if Canadians were given the right information, they would make the right choices. So I do believe that God is and will reveal those things
Right.
to Canadians.
Right. So you've been through a very hard time, a very difficult time with like standing, like you gained some radical supporters. I just was amazed. I thought if our country could be run by Derek Sloan, like we have a fighting chance of not being, going crazy, right? But unfortunately, no one's ready for you. Like people, like the mainstream media is all bought off, and they were not going to support your narrative, which is the narrative of the true people. Really, it is, and millions of people loved you. So as you look back, what do you embrace as some of the the best part of it and the worst part of what you've been through?
Well, it's unfortunate because even though there was a lot of support for grassroots freedoms initiatives, there wasn't, we weren't able yet anyways to translate that into victories at the ballot box. But that's okay too, right? Because I mean, winning is more than just about winning at the polls. It's about creating organizations, it's about creating movements.
And awareness.
And certainly we are succeeding at that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great event, and there's probably been, I used to know all the events that were going on. I don't even know them all anymore. There's so many events going on.
Yeah.
There's so many things going on.
Right.
And really a movement has been started that didn't exist before. So that's going to keep growing.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to fight for Canadian freedom.
Yeah.
And, that may be in different areas and at different times, but I'm here to support movements across the country that are doing that. And I believe we will win eventually and potentially even soon.
Really good. So this is an amazing book, Glorious and Free, and it's a #1 Amazon bestseller. So you can get it on Amazon,
You can
right?
get it on Amazon,
So
yep.
what made you write this book? I like the picture. It looks, you look a little bit like that president from the United States. The one, he was murdered that's the bad part about it. But the guy, he was what?
JFK.
No, the other one. In the back days, we all love
Lincoln.
him. Lincoln,
Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln.
Oh, there you go.
I'm so
Okay.
sorry for taking so long. You look just like Abe Lincoln in this shot, and you have you're a tall person. You have quite a presence, when you walk in a room, and I appreciate, you look like you should be in politics. Sometimes people don't look like they should be what they're actually called to do. You do. So Glorious and Free, what made you write that, and how did it come about?
Well, a good friend of mine, whose name is Barry Bussey, who's speaking here
I know
this
Barry,
weekend.
yeah.
He is a connoisseur of political biographies. So he has all of them, whether it's Churchill or even I think he has some of the the not so good ones as well. But he said, listen, Derek, he actually ran under the Canadian Alliance with Stockwell Day 20 some odd years ago, and he said, what sunk stock is that the media told his story before he was able to tell his story. He's like, you got to write your own narrative, and you got to get it in a book form.
Wow.
So Barry got me on the path to that, and basically what we did, the first half is like autobiography. So who is Derek? Where does he come from? How did he get into politics? What did he do when he was in politics? The second is what are my take on the issues? So whether it's life issues or immigration or COVID issues, gun rights issues, all of that kind of thing is here. Be it China, all of that is here in the book. We also did a thing where we interviewed a lot of people that were close to me. So my wife, my parents, other people on campaigns that I've been involved in. And so we have it's kind of like a conversation in the autobiographical part where there'll be like a paragraph from Derek, a paragraph from someone on his campaign, a paragraph from his wife, just to sort of give you a three-dimensional view of who I am.
Yes.
And so this is a book that's been a few years in the making. We intended to release this when I was about to unleash a national party, which was not approved in time by Elections Canada to be effective in the election that year. And so this was going to be introducing myself to average Canadians. But there's so much that is still applicable right now. There's people that read this get back to me. And I had one friend text me and say, Derek, I read your book and it brought tears to my eyes. the way that you explain these issues, they're like, I had no idea this kind of stuff was going on in Ottawa, and now I get it. And so there's a lot of people who have, the right instincts, and they're like, yeah, Laura-Lynn, what you're saying, that's great. Derek, what you're saying, that's great. But they don't understand systematically, issue by issue, how the government has led us astray. And so this book will do that. And it gives you sort of a behind the scenes look at my experience dealing with the mainstream party. So if anybody wants to understand sort of what's going on in politics today and where we need to get to, this book will tell them that.
Okay. I really want to read this because I do want to know what went on behind the scenes and what nuggets of brilliance you have gleaned from an experience that was sown in the oven, the firing kiln, like the fire. You went through the fire in all of this, and it means the world to us that you are still standing and you're still going. And I cannot wait to see what happens with Derek Sloan. It's not the last chapter.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is just the beginning. And, there's all kinds of things, behind the scenes stuff in here as well. So if people want to see sort of how things work in politics, they'll see that in here.
Did you tell the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I did not go out of my way to sort of spill dirty laundry about people. But, when it came to sort of how I was treated and sort of things like that, I did make that clear in a respectful way.
The surprise to me is that remaining to this day on the Conservative Party, in their handbook, on page 30, it says a Conservative Party will not deal with anything to do with abortion or, a baby's right to life. And that remains very sad because in our country, at least in the States, we have the Republican Party fighting hard for life. In Canada, mum's the word. Don't you dare bring it up. Don't you speak of it. And I believe, for me personally, I believe it invites the judgment of God on our country.
It does for sure. And the other thing too is the cowardice involved also invites the judgment of God.
Yes.
And you mentioned that last night in Revelation, where it's listing the list of people who will partake of everlasting fire.
Yeah.
You would think it would be like, liars or murderers at the top or something, but it's actually cowards. And there's something, and nobody likes a coward, right? I mean, nobody respects or likes cowardice. And, we live in a country that's actually, our history is sort of, negotiation and being reasonable and so on. So that's kind of bred into our DNA a little bit in terms of kind of being, you could call it wishy-washy, but it's just our way of being reasonable. But the fact is that this is an issue that needs to be discussed. And the status quo is untenable. And I say this in my book as well. These sorts of issues have become tantamount to a religion to people on the left. So, that thing that you mentioned in the conservative constitution or policy book or whichever one it is, that may have been good enough, 20 years ago to placate the left. But it's not good enough now.
No.
And the fact is that it doesn't. The funny thing is no matter what the conservatives do or don't do, and they don't do much. They don't do anything about life issues. They still get blasted for being pro-life, right? Like I mean, like there is nothing that they will be able to do short of talking about abortion every day to make the right leave them alone, or to make the left leave them alone on that issue. Like, they have not done anything for life issues for ages.
Yeah.
And yet the liberals,
Stephen Harper,
Stephen
never
Harper,
did anything, and he's very pro-life.
And I mean, a guy like Andrew Scheer, who I watched that campaign, I was part of that campaign.
Yeah.
They did everything in their power to not talk about abortion. What were we talking about almost every day?
Yeah,
abortion.
Yeah.
Right? Or homosexuality or something.
And he lost
right?
everyone. He lost the people that were on his side because they were like, what a coward. I mean, in all honesty, it was a disappointment to see a pro-lifer be completely unwilling to stand for what had brought the conservatives to a certain place. It was amazing.
Well, and the poor guy was basically prodded to like almost deny his faith. I mean, he's like,
Yes.
no, I will never, ever, ever. And then they had the audacity after he lost the election to be like, oh, well, you were unclear about your stance on abortion.
Right.
So it was just just rubbing it in his face.
He couldn't win one way or the other.
Yeah, and the fact is like, listen, like, that's unfair what they did, and that I feel sorry for you, but you just have to stand.
You do.
Like, there is no there's no sitting on the fence on that issue.
No.
You have to do something.
Well, you lose people because you lose the people that actually
That's
voted
correct.
you in or were excited about you, being there. And I mean, there's lots of these polls that say people they would gladly support a sex selection ban on
Sure.
abortion and a late term ban on abortion. And if a woman can't decide in the very first couple of weeks or 3-4 weeks that there's a time period that could be reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable because I do believe that every life has a destiny. But it does get sad. We recently did have a late-term abortion that did take place in Canada. And it does happen. It happens more, and we don't hear about it.
Yeah.
And so to actually be standing, people get so vehement and angry about it, and it's almost like you're killing baby seals if you want a baby to live.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
A very bizarre thing. But I appreciate you, Glorious and Free. Everybody needs to get a copy of this. I bet you've got some real gems in there, and I look forward to reading this book and hearing, some of the way that it all operates. We're all kind of curious about that, just the whole thing of being an MP and getting that opportunity. And you did it well. You rose above so many. Were you scared? Like, a final question. So, like, because you were coming out, like, we were like, whoa, like somebody's finally saying it, somebody's finally like talking about the real stuff. You would just come out with a slam. And like for us, you gained so many supporters, but in the back room when you're sitting there going, I just put this out and I know like you're doing something only like not even 1% of people that are ever MPs would do. Was it challenging personally?
Well, the hardest time that we ever had to go through was right after I said what I did about Dr. Tam.
Yeah.
The entire Conservative caucus sort of erupted, and my own group in Ontario were very upset because they thought. Now, what I had said was basically.
Is she loyal?
Yeah. Is she working for Canada or China?
Yes.
Now, I did not mean is China writing her a check. Mm-hmm. What I meant was she's on the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization is clearly mimicking Chinese misinformation.
Yeah.
And she's also the Chief Health Officer of Canada. Mm-hmm. So, A, can you be both at the same time? Mm-hmm. And two, where are her loyalties as far as advice?
Yes.
Right?
Conflict of interest. Now, so if she wasn't Chinese, what you had said would have.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well, she's
not
actually
been...
from Hong Kong. And of
Okay.
course, there was no, what I said had nothing to do with the fact that she's Asian at all. I would have said that about Patty Hadju or anybody else
That's
that
right.
was in that position. But of course, everybody made it about race. They're like, oh, he's saying that simply because she has an Asian background,
Mm-hmm.
she's literally working for China, which was so false. So my, even though my Conservative caucus mates knew I did not mean that, they're like, listen, you have to apologize now, or we're going to kick you out. We're going to try to kick you out of the party. So I basically said, listen, I will clarify if you want, but I will not apologize. And of course, the slogan I'd chosen for my leadership race was conservative without apology.
Right.
And the reason I chose that is because I was sick of conservatives apologizing all the time. Not for real mistakes, but just because, they get pushed into a corner by the media. So I said, listen, I did this to be an example of how I think we need to lead the party.
And you're right.
So they were trying to get me kicked out. And I'm like, wow, that's really tough because that was at the beginning of the leadership race, the beginning of my career. And it's like, well, I don't really want to get kicked out now. I haven't had a chance to really do anything yet. And so I said, listen, I'm not going to apologize. The leader of the party at that time had to deal with some tough questions about it for a few days and whatever. And unfortunately, it got to him too. And so he calls me up and he's just screaming and cursing and livid. And he's like, listen, just, effing apologize and like whatever. And I said, listen, I'm sorry, I can't. So I didn't apologize.
Wow.
There was a bit of a move to have me, thrown out. It never got anywhere, and I was able to continue. But that was really challenging because, at the beginning of my thing, I'm like, listen, I want to complete this race. I don't want to get kicked out now. And God honored that. But I didn't know. I didn't know what way it was going to go. And
Oh man.
and we made it through that.
Yes.
So.
And to actually have to stand up to the wrath of a superior who's completely wrong and who completely wants and caving in to this woke, agenda that is going on, and also the culture has gone so ridiculous. So there's so many things we could talk about, but I just thank you, and Glorious and Free one last time. Make sure you get your copy. I think this book is going to be one that you'll want sitting on your shelves, and perhaps have your kids read, because maybe they'll be involved in politics and they need to see someone who did it the right way. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
Thanks for the interview. You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.